I think that Steve had a good eye for talent. That may be part of his legacy. He hired people that were not always in the mainstream of what you would expect at a computer company. I know of at least 2 people whom he hired who were planning to become medical doctors. I think Bill was one of them, so I thought I'd ask Bill to tell us how Steve convinced him to drop out.
Okay. I was a graduate student in neuroscience up at the University of Washington in Seattle, and I got, and a friend of mine, Jeff Raskin, that I knew from my undergraduate down at UC San Diego, wrote me and said, you know, something really cool is starting up down here. Why don't you come and check it out? And I said, no, I've got to finish my PhD or I'll never get to do research. You know, I'll be working in somebody else's lab instead of other people working in my lab on my good ideas. And so then one day, round-trip airfare showed up, non-refundable tickets. He said, just come and visit for a weekend. What do you have to lose? Okay, so I flew down, and that day, Steve Jobs, that was his main mission, was to court me and get me to come down there. I think Jeff had sufficiently convinced him ahead of time that I was worth getting, and I remember showing some of my credentials to Steve, and he didn't even want to look at them. You know, wasn't interested in, you know, the work that I had done. He just looked at me and he talked to me, and after not very long, he judged that I would be an asset. And so he said, well, you know, so he brought me around to meet all the people at Apple. There were 30 people there, and I found them to be passionate and intelligent and having fun, and so that was interesting, but that wouldn't have got me there. What he did at the end of the day is he said, you know, up in Seattle, where you're reading about hot new technology coming out, you know, in electronic design, those technologies actually happened or were invented 2 or 3 years before that. There's a lag time between the time something is invented and the time it's available to the public. And if you want to change the world, if you want to have an impact, you have to be ahead of that lag time. You can't be just receiving these things. Come down to Silicon Valley, where we are ahead of the gap. We are inventing the future. Come to Silicon Valley and help us invent the future of computing. And he said, he gave me a visual analogy that really just stuck for me. He said, you know how fun it is to surf on the front edge of a wave? Now think about the poor guy dog paddling on the tail end of the same wave. It's no fun. You go the same distance, you know, but this guy's just eating the back of the wave. This guy's surfing. Come to Apple and surf. And I think in 4 days, I was an Apple employee. So he was very good at convincing, and I know at the time I really had the impression that he was kind of spinning too good of a story, you know. And on retrospect, it was an understatement. You know, he said, we're gonna affect millions of people's lives. So that was my introduction to Steve, was when he went after me to get me to come to Apple. And the other part of my relationship with him is simply that he believed in me. And I found that so empowering. For whatever reason, I don't know what Jeff Raskin said to him, but during my 12-year tenure at Apple, he kept believing in me and expecting me to do great things. And I think there's something very empowering when, you know, if you believe in your friend, they'll do great things. You believe in your children, they'll do great things. And for whatever reason, Steve believed in me and allowed me to invent and create. I'm 60 now. I was 27 when I came to Apple. So it's a long time ago. It's a different life. But I actually got to invent the pull-down menu. I can't, you know, Steve let me do that.